do want to talk here first about a team that's just having a special year on the field and off the field, and that's Missouri. Missouri sitting there, just one loss. And I mean, they're looking like the second best team in the East. You can argue they're a top 4 or 5 team in the SEC, which is not normal for that program. They came into the year, like some of these articles, not us, but some of the articles had Eli Drinkwitz on the hot seat. Guys, they're killing it. What are you seeing so far out of Missouri that has you so impressed?
I love the defense. Blake Baker, we had him on our podcast back in the summer, comes in from LSU by way of Miami, also spent time at Louisiana Tech. I just love his defensive system. And I know we're going to talk about recruiting, but I think the transfer portal bleeds into that a little bit. He has rebuilt that unit through veterans and mercenaries, guys that have come from other programs. And now you're seeing the effects on the recruiting trail. You look at what they did last cycle, what they have committed this cycle, and it's impressive. And Bud, you're absolutely right. I think didn't Drink sign an extension last year? I know Blake Baker became one of the highest paid defensive coordinators. I think a lot of people were scratching their heads, but if you're just familiar with what's going on behind the scenes, now you fast forward to October 24th, and it looks like an excellent move. So I think it's been the talent acquisition, really on defense. And then they got a stud player in Luther Burden and some other weapons as well that are making things hum in that offense.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with the recruiting side of it. You think back to, we're going to talk about Winery and potentially Wingo here in a second, but like Luther Burden, I think it's so important that you have to show proof of concept, right? A lot was invested from an NIL standpoint, not only from an acquisition standpoint with Luther Burden, but from a retention standpoint. So for him to be one of the most prolific and dynamic playmakers in all of the country, up there with the Malik Neighbors and Roma Dunzes of the world, that's a huge win for Eli Drinkwitz. Now, he was doing that a year ago as well. He's doing his thing this year too, but they're doing that with a new offensive coordinator, right? And Kirby Moore, Kellen Moore's brother, who came over from Fresno State. And then, Cook's had a great season as well. Drew mentioned what they've done defensively. I think Blake Baker is one of the best young minds in all of college football on the defensive side of the ball. So I think what you've seen already, like in the state of Missouri, Williams Winery, top 5 player for us, Ryan Wingo, right, which Missouri is in a very good position. His decision comes tomorrow. I think for them to have that success on the recruiting trail that they've had this year, guys like Luther Burden have to be able to pan out in a way where, if they didn't go to Missouri and they went somewhere else, would their draft stock be that different? And I don't think that's the case for Missouri. And then on top of that, it's the first year we've seen Mizzou really be a factor in the SEC East under Eli Drinkwitz. So now you see these things kind of working in like parallel conjunction, where you see the on-field product along with the recruiting product more kind of gravitating, and you see a team ascending both on the field and off the field.
Coop, when you were at Alabama, obviously, one of the ways that people recruit against Alabama is, hey, if you go to Bama, you're just another guy there, right? If you come to us, you'll be like the guy. How much more difficult is it if the school that's making that pitch actually follows through and does what Missouri does with Burden, which is force feed him 10 to 12 targets a game and design plays that are basically like just Burden plays?
Well, impossible, right? I mean, think about it. You're the state school. You're going to pay a guy from the state of Missouri. I think that's the other thing. You're going to give him early playing time. And then on top of that, with the Sunday aspirations as well, if there's no drop off there, then what type of advantage does Alabama or Georgia have going into the state of Missouri to recruit a Luther Burden or a Williams Winery or a Ryan Wingo, right? So I think the funny thing is about NIL, if you're a place like Missouri, if you're a place like one of these other programs that has gotten involved, you have to win the recruitment organically like you used to pre-NIL. But also at the same time, if you check all those boxes, then the money at the end of the day is going to be enough to get them in the door. And, I'm not trying to take anything away from Missouri, but if you think about Missouri's path to being relevant and being a player in the SEC, they have done things the right way. And I think the biggest thing you do is you buy into homegrown talent, and they've done that. And then you got to develop those guys. And we've seen that with Luther Burden. And now you're starting to see a pathway forward with guys like Williams Nwaneri. And if they can bring home Ryan Wingo, man, like now all of a sudden Missouri's got it cooking a little bit.
Ivins, I know you actually like another guy from our home state of Florida who's committed to Missouri, and Cam Keys.
I do. And that's what I was going to say, right? You look at Missouri's recruiting class, I think it's 36th or 39th right now. But to the trained eye, there's a lot of good pieces. And Missouri has guys in the NFL. Like, this isn't just some program that hasn't churned out talent. I think they're doing an excellent job really in 3 states. So it's Florida, Alabama, and then in Georgia. I mean, that's essentially kind of SEC country, or where some of these teams are built. Cam Keys, guy from the Panhandle, I think it's a really excellent evaluation by the Tigers. He's a 4-star prospect for us, long, lanky corner. I like him. And then James Madison down at St. Thomas Aquinas, right? Every year it seems like STA, which is one of the most well-known programs in the country, they have this late bloomer at receiver. James Madison is that guy this year. I think coming into the season had like 19 catches. That was it, right? He was working behind some guys who are now playing college football. He has taken his play to another level. And then one more, Elias Williams out of where is he? Hudson,
Florida. Yeah.
I don't even know where that is. And I've lived in the state like my entire life.
I actually do. So it's like an hour north of Tampa.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah. It's really kind of middle of nowhere, Florida. So if you didn't need to be there for a certain reason, you wouldn't have gone there.
But Florida State was, kind of kicking the tires on Elias. I know UCF and Gus Malzahn was in there, and then Missouri gets him committed, right? They get him on campus in the summer, and now he's having an excellent senior season. So it's a strong recruiting class, and it's just, you watch the games on Saturdays, right? Again, there's a lot of transfers in there, and they are playing some freshmen as well. Brett Norfleet was a big win for them in the Show Me State tight end. He caught a touchdown, I think, against LSU. I mean, it's just strong evaluation. So I'm a believer in kind of what they're doing. And I think we also need to point out that Missouri has like the most progressive NIL laws out of any of the states out there. I think that is playing a factor into this. But to Cooper's point, you still have to recruit these guys. And like Williams Nwaneri, Blake Baker coached Greg Russo when he was at the University of Miami. Now, are those guys the same players? No, but they're similar. He can put on that tape. He's recruited him. They've got him on campus. It's not just the dollar sign. But when you get to, the decision time, you're sitting down as a family. Hey, you can stay home. You can play for this guy who, molded a first-round pick, and you're going to get paid as much as some of these other programs. I think that's it's like a nirvana. Everything's coming together for Missouri in some of these recruitments.
You mentioned James Madison. He actually, body type-wise, reminds me a little bit of a dude who's having success against a lot of single coverage for Missouri, because now people are having to try to play bracket over Burden, and that's Theo Weiss, who was at one time like a really high-level recruit, got hurt at Oklahoma, bounced out, and then like Missouri's like, hey, they're having a lot of success. I know via the portal, but they're not that dissimilar body type-wise. Weiss was a higher pedigree recruit because he was much more proven coming out, but I can see them using him in that role too. That's going to be fun. And I mean, if you're a Missouri fan, it's not necessarily so much about like, hey, we're going to go win the SEC with this class. It's eyes to the West, right? It's, oh, shoot, Texas and Oklahoma are joining this league. We're about to get about a half game tougher on our conference schedule per season. And that's if you stay at 8. If they go to 9, it's very difficult. So in some ways, you're doing this to ensure that you're going to consistently make bowl games, bowl game +1, bowl game +2, like giving yourself a product that your fans can enjoy, and that you compete in the big games more often than not. Like, everybody will have a Kentucky versus Georgia moment at some point if you're not like a Bama. But, I mean, this is really an important thing for them to do to cement their future, because this league's about to get tougher.
The timing of this season can come at a better time, right? Eli Drinkwitz's 3rd year, and you mentioned now like Oklahoma, Texas, they're now coming in 2024. So for Missouri, like we said, it kind of started with Luther Burden, but to have the other shoe drop, like Williams Nwaneri is a win over Georgia straight up. If they get Ryan Wingo tomorrow, that's a win over Texas straight up, right? And now there's more proof of concept with 2 of the, biggest brand names in all of college football moving in to your side of the division, or however they do that thing with the pods in the SEC. So, Yeah, I think for Eli Drinkwitz, look, it's great that they're off to this start, but if they can somehow find a way to win 10 games this season, I think the long-term ramifications, the benefits for Missouri are going to be huge.